What's going on YouTube? Listen up, young elder gang. This is Imam Abu Abdullah Ali Ibn Hamza Manaratan back at you with another banger. Please make sure you like, subscribe and share this video, fam. I hope this video get at least 100,000 likes. In this video, you will find history, definitions, scripture, information, and best of all, what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning, the truth. Keep in mind, this content used in this video is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. We will give you the total truth as we best understand it today. Be sure to hit that like button, young elder gang. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Hit that bell and don't forget to check back with us every day for new content. Bismillah el-Rahman el-Rahim. Bismillah al-Rahman al-Rahim is an Arabic phrase that means in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. It's also known as the Basmala or Tasmiyah. Muslims say Bismillah, meaning in the name of Allah, before starting any significant action as a way to seek blessings and guidance from Allah, essentially declaring that they are undertaking the task with Allah's help and intention to please Him. It's a practice that signifies a conscious connection to God and a reminder to perform every action with mindfulness and purpose. By saying Bismillah, Muslims are asking Allah to bless their efforts and make their actions successful. It serves as a way to set the intention behind an action, making it clear that it is being done for the sake of Allah. Muslims often say Bismillah before eating, drinking, starting a task, or even speaking about something important. The phrase is considered a powerful way to connect with Allah and foster a mindful approach to daily life. Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed as a guide for humanity, with clear proofs of guidance and the standard to distinguish between right and wrong. So, whoever is present this month, let them fast, but whoever is ill or on a journey, then let them fast an equal number of days after Ramadan. Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. It is observed by Muslims worldwide as a month of fasting, sawm, prayer, salah, reflection, and community. It is also the month in which the Quran is believed to have been revealed to the Islamic prophet Muhammad. The annual observance of Ramadan is regarded as one of the 5 pillars of Islam and lasts 29 to 30 days, from one sighting of the crescent moon to the next. The science of Ramadan is the study of the physical and mental health effects of fasting during Ramadan. Research suggests that fasting can improve health in a number of ways, including metabolic health, brain function, and heart health. The word Ramadan originates from the Arabic root word aramad, which means scorching heat, essentially signifying the intense heat often associated with the month in which Ramadan falls on the Islamic calendar. The name reflects the hot climate of the Arabian Peninsula, where Islam originated. Fasting from dawn to sunset is obligatory, fard, for all adult Muslims who are not acutely or chronically ill, traveling, elderly, breastfeeding, pregnant, or menstruating. The purpose of fasting for spiritual preparation for a sacred meal, preparation to induce spiritual impressions or visions and provide vitality during times of human or natural infertility. The great wisdom of fasting is the protection of the soul and its education. It is also to keep away the passions and evil ways, so the soul and body will always be with Allah. Every negative passion should be dead in this great month of Ramadan. In fasting, the person feels hunger every day. This hunger should give one compassion for those who must deal with it every day. During the month of Ramadan, one has the chance to bum out their desires, as one of the objects of the fast is to generate power in the self and to guard against disagreeable and evil. It is said that one who fasts during the day should not spoil the benefits of his fast in the shadow hours when the fast is not in effect. Fasting is mandatory of all males, females, and children aged 13 and over. Exceptions are made in cases of those who are sick or insane, or those who are trawling in the desert. The beginning of the fast is started by reciting El Holy Quran, Ainu, Alyun, Alyun. El also created an Anunnaki over the shadow hour and an Anunnaki over the daylight. They ascend with the servant's work at the end of the shadow hour while he is in slumber. They give to you that which has his pages of intentions, which is his alone, his obedience to his tafulat, prayer, and his sawm fasting, and what he abstained from and did not abstain from in all of his works for that day. Almost any disease can be cured by either a change in diet or a short period of fasting. The pre-dawn meal is referred to as suhoor, and the nightly feast that breaks the fast is called iftar. Although rulings, fatwa, have been issued declaring that Muslims who live in regions with a midnight sun or polar night should follow the timetable of Mecca, it is common practice to follow the timetable of the closest country in which night can be distinguished from day. The spiritual rewards, thawab, of fasting are believed to be multiplied during Ramadan. Accordingly, during the hours of fasting, Muslims refrain not only from food and drink but also from all behavior deemed to be sinful in Islam, devoting themselves instead to prayer and study of the Quran. Allah intends ease for you, not hardship, so that you may complete the prescribed period and proclaim the greatness of Allah for guiding you, and perhaps you will be grateful. Ramadan marks the month in which the Quran was revealed to Muhammad Rasul Allah, An-Nabi, Al-Habib. Muhammad Rasul Allah is an Arabic phrase that translates to Muhammad the Messenger of Allah. Muhammad is considered a prophet in Islam, and the Quran refers to him as the Messenger of God. Rasul, an Arabic word that means messenger. Allah is the Arabic word for God. An-Nabi, which means the prophet. Al-Habib, which means the beloved. Matthew 6:16, 18. Moreover, when you fast, do not be like the hypocrites with a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces that they may appear to men to be fasting. Assuredly, I say to you, they have their reward. But you, when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that you do not appear to men to be fasting, but to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Allah, who means God, just He. In Arabic, Allah means God, and with who, as an intensive added to Allah, means God Himself. Who is also found in a variant of the first part of the Islamic credo, wherein La ilaha illa Allah, there is no God but God, is shortened to La ilaha illa huwa, meaning there is no God but He. In the month selected, Sha'baan, called Nisfu min Sha'baan, mid-Sha'baan, Arabic NSF Sha'ban romanized, Nisf Saban or Lili NSF min Sha'ban Laylat Nisf min Saban, night on the half of Sha'baan, is a Muslim holiday observed by Shia and Sunni Muslim communities on the eve of 15th of Sha'baan, that is the night following the sunset on the 14th day, the same night as Shabi Barat or Laylat al-Bara'a, Arabic Lil Ilbara. It is regarded as a night when the fortunes of individuals for the coming year are decided and when Allah may forgive sinners. In many regions, this is also a night when prayers are arranged for forgiveness from Allah for one's deceased ancestors. The 8th month, Sha'baan, directly precedes Ramadan. During this month, you are to prepare yourselves for the upcoming fast. Approximately 2 weeks before the first day of Ramadan, you are to spend your shadow hour in Salat. This special shadow hour is called a Nisfu min Sha'baan. This is how we practiced it while in the school of Mohammedans, the third school. 100 prostrations are completed by the believer in his devotion of his creator in Din, Islam, or Milat Ibrahim, or Din, Allah. O you who are faithful, coming in having nothing but hopes, and that you make salat, worship, 7 but not less than 3 periods in every 23 hours, 56 minutes, 6 seconds. And that you restrain by waiting from the appearance of the sun to its disappearance in the appointed time in the lunar logging called in tones Ramadan, hot month, for 30 days, remembering the undeprived in this the planet Earth. Anisanu bistanyat dekani sawm el bukra min el sharushil Ramadan, kafuhet liya ent fawafuj minni, ya Allah ena ent atha el samuat el barufat. I make intentions that I fast the morrow from the month of Ramadan, obligatory to you so except for me, O Allah. Surely you are the hearer, the knower. Following the intentions are the intake of 3 dates and a glass of water. If dates are not available, water is sufficient to break the fast. During the shadow hours of the month of Ramadan, the resting prayer, El Rahui Taful, is performed. In it, the congregation sits and rests after every 4th raka'at is completed and every 2nd salutations is performed. You are to recite from the El Holy Quran. Afterwards, the congregation breaks up into groups and they speak on such things as law. The complete shadow hour is spent in the remembrance of the constant blessings that Allahu subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon us. At the commencement of the fast of Ramadan, the fast is broken by what is called the Feast of Breaking the Fast, simply the festival of the breaking, meaning the fast. Gifts are exchanged, there are festivities of music and dance, everyone is dressed up, and a tithing of 1/10 of your yearly earning is given as a free will offering to the central tabernacle. On the 19th day of the month now called Ramadan, after the reckoning of an impact of the moon and its lunar logging at the 1300th hour or noon, then Gabriel said on this 19th shadow hour in the 9th month, called Ramadan, for it is very hot in that month, read, for they said, I heard they don't fast Ramadan no more, I heard they don't make 5 daily prayers no more, and they destroyed the masjid, controlling your desires. It's commonly known that during this month our Muslim friends will fast from any kind of food, drink or sexual act from the time the sun rises until it sets for one full lunar cycle. This all sounds simple enough when considering the most basic description of Ramadan, but what is the true meaning of fasting as observed in Islam versus what we find described in the Bible? Let's start with the prophets. Ramadan is not a custom or tradition that was observed by any of the prophets that preceded Muhammad. When we compare Ramadan with the fasting observed by the people of the book, that is, the Jews and Christians, Ramadan really just becomes a rearranging of meal times as opposed to true fasting. You see, throughout the Bible, fasting is observed for various reasons. This could include repentance, requesting forgiveness of sins, and mourning. It was also a way to make supplication to God and much more. Fasting is done to deliberately seek the face and mercy of God, thus getting closer to Him. This is accomplished by abstaining from food, drinks, and all other forms of fleshly desires, not just sex. Furthermore, fasting can be done on an individual basis or in groups, and it can last as long as a day or longer as deemed necessary by the participants. Fasting is the practice of abstaining from food or drink for a period of time. It can be done for various reasons, including fasting is a common practice in many religions, such as Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. It is often used as a spiritual discipline or a way to connect with God. Some people fast to improve their health, such as by reducing inflammation, boosting metabolism, or promoting weight loss. Fasting may be prescribed by doctors before surgery or certain medical procedures to clear the digestive system, protesting or making a statement. Fasting can be used as a form of protest or to raise awareness about a cause. When we compare true fasting to Ramadan, we find that Ramadan isn't really about abstinence or sacrifice. Instead, excessive amounts of food and drink are merely consumed during the night rather than the day. Ramadan really just shifts the times for having food, drink, and sex from daytime to nighttime during that month. This doesn't line up at all with the customs already observed by the biblical prophets, but this shouldn't be a surprise because Allah's messenger said to you the most beloved fasting to Allah was the fasting of the prophet David, who used to fast on alternate days, and the most loved prayer to Allah was the prayer or psalm of David, who used to sleep for the first half of the night and pray for 1/3 of it and again sleep for 1/6 of it. The time frame of Ramadan change every year, but it usually during the end of February to the end of March. The scriptures never mentioned King David fasting on alternate days or having an altered sleep schedule for the sake of praying. Clearly, Muhammad Rasul Allah was totally clueless when it came to the topic of fasting as described in the Bible. Speaking of biblical prophets and the origins of fasting, let's take a look at the origins of Ramadan and how Muhammad Rasul Allah developed his ideology of fasting in the first place. Looking back at Al-Baqarah, verse 185. Al-Baqarah is the second chapter of the Quran and the longest chapter. The chapter's name translates to the cow or the heifer in English. It contains 286 verses. The chapter begins with the letters Alif, Lam, El, and Mim, M. The chapter contains the verse of loan, which is the longest verse in the Holy Quran. The chapter includes stories about Adam and Eve. The chapter includes guidance on loans, including how to write contracts and who can witness them. The chapter includes guidance on how to avoid magic and the dangers of magic. The chapter includes guidance on how to be righteous, including how to give charity and how to be patient. The chapter includes guidance on how to avoid disbelieving, including how to avoid following the devil's magic. Also, El-Bagara or Bakara is a so-called Arab tribe of the Euphrates tribe spread widely between Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and Lebanon. The tribe was named by the name of their grandfather, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, one of the grandsons of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Listen, in some sect of Islam, you are told that Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed. By this logic, Muhammad Rasul Allah should have been fasting either before or while the Quran was being revealed to him. In Sahih al-Bukhari 6982, Muhammad Rasul Allah used to go in seclusion to the cave of Hira, where he used to worship Allah alone continuously for many days and nights. He used to take with him the journey food for that stay and then come back to his wife Khadija to take his food, likewise again for another period to stay, till suddenly the truth descended upon him while he was in the cave of Hira. What I find really interesting is that many of the major prophets of the Bible experienced significant episodes of prolonged fasting, which proved to be vital to their ministries. Moses, Elijah, King David, and even Yeshua the Messiah himself. All of these individuals fasted as means of spiritual transformation and fulfillment before God. But the same can't be said for Muhammad Rasulullah. Spiritual transformation is a fundamental change in a person's connection to the sacred, or a change in how they pursue that connection. It can also refer to a change in a person's nature or identity. So we have to ask, when did fasting during Ramadan officially become mandatory? Fasting was already well practiced in the Arabic community. Even before the rise of Islam, the pagans of Quraysh had already been used to fasting during the Ashura day, in the times of ignorance. The Quraysh were a so-called Arab tribe who were the custodians of the Kaaba, a sacred pagan shrine before the rise of Islam. The Quraysh were also involved in a military and religious war with the early Muslims, led by Muhammad Rasul Allah. The Quraysh were a powerful merchant tribe in the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century. They were the most powerful tribe in Mecca. The Quraysh were divided into 10 main clans, including the Banu Hashim, into which Muhammad Rasulullah was born. The Quraysh were involved in a war with the early Muslims led by Muhammad Rasulullah. The war started in March 624 with the Battle of Badr and concluded with the conquest of Mecca. Muhammad's strong monotheistic message angered many of the Meccan merchants. Muhammad Rasulullah was ostracized in Mecca. The Kaaba was a sacred pagan shrine and destination for pilgrims. The Quraysh were the custodians of the Kaaba. The Kaaba was originally set up for astral worship. The Quraysh was a powerful merchant tribe of the Arabian Peninsula. In the 7th century, it controlled Mecca, where it was the custodian of the Kaaba, the sacred so-called pagan shrine and destination for pilgrims that became Islam's most sacred shrine. Ashura is a holy day in Islam that takes place on the 10th day of Muharram, the first month of the Islamic calendar. It's a day of commemoration that's significant for both Sunni and Shia Muslims. Like we said, the tribe of Quraysh was already fasting, that is before Islam was revealed, narrated Aisha during the pre-Islamic period of ignorance. The pre-Islamic period of ignorance is known as Jahiliyyah, an Arabic word that means ignorance or barbarism. It's an Islamic term used to describe the time before the Prophet Muhammad Rasul Allah received the Quran. Jahiliyyah is used to evaluate the life and culture of pre-Islamic Arabia from an Islamic perspective. It's a negative assessment of that time compared to the teachings of Islam. Jahiliyyah refers to the period in Western Central Arabia before the mission of Muhammad Rasul Allah, which was about a century long. It includes the early career of the Prophet Muhammad Rasul Allah. Jahiliyyah is associated with a decadent and perverse lifestyle, chaos, corruption, and a decline in society's ideology and sociology. It's also associated with a lack of acknowledgement of the divine truth and a failure to acknowledge the message of Muhammad. Some Islamic thinkers have used the term to criticize what they see as un-Islamic aspects of life in the Muslim world. The tribe of Quraysh and the Quran, and you haven't put it together yet. Abd al-Muttalib, who headed the tribe called the Hashemites, later called the Quraysh. The original Quran was on bones and skins in the ancient script in the dialect of the Quraysh tribe and was entrusted to Ali. Keep in mind Red Arab from the tribe Taim, mixed in with black tribes of Quraysh. These are the people they are trying to show you, not the original dark-skinned people. The tribe called Adi ibn Ka also, a clan of the tribe that also mixed in with the black tribes of Quraysh. An affluent clan of the Abid Shams branch of the tribe of Quraysh, descended from Hadad, the 8th son of Ishmael, the son of Abraham. The tribe of Quraysh used to observe fasting on the day of Ashura, and the Prophet himself used to observe fasting on it too. But when he came to Medina, he fasted on that day and ordered the Muslims to fast on it. The day of Ashura is not a recognized term in Islamic tradition. However, if you're likely referring to Ashura, it signifies the 10th day of Muharram, the first month of the Islamic calendar, which commemorates the deliverance of Prophet Moses and the Israelites from Pharaoh by the parting of the Red Sea, according to Islamic belief. Ashura comes from the Arabic word ashara, meaning 10. When the order of compulsory fasting in Ramadan was revealed, fasting in Ramadan became an obligation, and fasting on Ashura was given up, and whoever wished to fast on it did so, and whoever did not wish to fast on it did not fast, much like the many other customs that Muhammad Rasul Allah mimicked from the surrounding polytheistic tribes. Ramadan's true origins are unsurprisingly so-called pagan, according to mainstream Islam. So did the pagans fast? I thought the pagans were bad guys. Listen at this. Muhammad Rasul Allah observed the polytheistic fasting on the day of Ashura and decided to follow these practices while also commanding his own followers to do the same. When in Rome, do as the Roman do. When in Rome, do as the Romans do, meaning when you're visiting a new place, you should follow the customs and practices of the local people there. Essentially, adapt to the culture you are in. It encourages respecting local traditions and behaving in a way that aligns with the norms of the place you are visiting. However, what's more stunning than this is the fact that, even after Allah supposedly revealed to Muhammad the fasting obligations of Ramadan, Muhammad Rasul Allah still declared observing the so-called pagan Ashura fast as optional. It's easy to see that Muhammad Rasul Allah didn't take abandoning all forms of falsehood and ignorance very serious, obviously, but hold on, we're not done here. Take a look at this. Hadith narrated by Ibn Abbas. Keep in mind, these hadith are the word of men, not the divine words of Allah like the Holy Quran, but nevertheless in this hadith. The Prophet came to Medina and saw the Jews fasting on the day of Ashura. He asked them about that. They replied, "This is a good day, the day on which Allah rescued Beni Israel from their enemies. So Moses fasted this day." The Prophet said, "We have more claim over Moses than you." So the Prophet fasted on that day and ordered the Muslims to fast on that day. Can you spot the contradiction? This hadith. This says that the Quraysh used to observe fasting on the day of Ashura, but in this hadith, we are told that it was the Jews who fasted on the day of Ashura. So, which is it? Are you telling me the tribe you calling the real Quraysh is some of the real Jews? Was it the Quraysh that fasted on the day of Ashura, or was it the Jews? You know, the so-called black Jews picked the hit on Muhammad Rasul Allah anyway. But anyway, the answer is surprisingly simple. Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar, takes place on the 10th day of the month to Tishrei. Yom Kippur is celebrated on the 10th day of the Jewish lunar month of Tishrei, which usually falls in September or October. Tishrei is the 9th month of the Jewish calendar. The word 10th in the Hebrew language is Asada, which sounds almost exactly identical to the Arabic word for 10th Ashura. Muhammad Rasul Allah heard that the Jews fasted on the Asada of Tishrei, the 10th day of the month Tishrei. He confused that with what the so-called pagans were doing, fasting on the Ashura of Muharram, the 10th day of the month Muharram. When the blind leads the blind, they both fall into a ditch. This phrase means that when someone who is completely ignorant or lacking knowledge tries to guide another person who is equally uninformed, they will both end up making mistakes or getting into trouble, essentially falling into a ditch together. It is a metaphor highlighting the futility of relying on someone who is just as clueless as you are. When you fast, do not be like the hypocrites with a sad countenance. They disfigure their faces, that they may appear to men to be fasting. Truly I say to you, they have their reward, but you, when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that you do not appear to men to be fasting, but to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. These are the words that Yeshua himself spoke in regards to fasting. The Son of God teaches us that fasting is an incredibly intimate observance between man and God. Yeshua puts great emphasis on the spiritual humility of fasting, which is meant to be done without showing off or expecting a reward or acknowledgement from others. Fasting is an act of bowing to God's grace and recognizing that He alone is the sole provider for all of our needs, both physically and spiritually. Let's compare these teachings of Yeshua regarding fasting to the teachings of Muhammad Rasul Allah. Allah's messenger said fasting is a shield or a screen or a shelter. So the person observing fasting should avoid sexual relations with his wife and should not behave foolishly and impudently, and if somebody fights with him or abuses him, he should tell him twice. I am fasting. It's interesting how fasting is used as a method of avoiding persecution by Muhammad Rasul Allah and his followers. Muslims are allowed to assert the fact that they are fasting as means of making their opponent feel guilty, thus gaining the upper hand over them rather than accepting persecution and considering it an honor to suffer in the name of their God. Muhammad Rasul Allah and his companions frequently used Ramadan as a method to avoid such trials for their faith. Fasting, as described in the Bible, is an opportunity to increase in humility before the Lord. It is an avenue by which we experience the fullness of His grace through denying our own will in order to acquaint ourselves. On the other hand, if you're a follower of Muhammad Rasul Allah, fasting becomes a reason to avoid trials and indulge in one's own will and selfish pleasures during the darkness of night. None of this should come as a surprise. Another question is, should you follow Muhammad or Allah? However, as Muhammad's revelations all came to him in the darkest of ways, and here is everything you need to know about how it happened. I'm done, and until next time. Ramadan marks the month in which the Quran was revealed to Muhammad. But what are the true origins of this unholy month? And how does fasting in Islam compare to that of what we find in the Bible? Here's another perspective on it. Ramadan is a very complicated issue. When I was a very religious Muslim, I used to fast during Ramadan. It felt peaceful and great to fast, to be honest. I was very much convinced that the sacrifice that I was making throughout the day, which is hungering and dehydrating myself, was a holy sacrifice whose reward was given to me and would hopefully be given to me by Allah. Such a conviction gives you an interesting feeling of spirituality, as I still remember. Look, I get it. There is devotion in Ramadan, in fasting. You abstain from eating, drinking, sex, and all that stuff during the day, and that feels like a sacrifice that you make to Allah for your submission and obedience. But I have some issues with the topic sacrifice already. Is it healthy? Is it really healthy? This is definitely important because this topic is really worth a discussion, and we can't just brush it off like that. So, is fasting in Ramadan healthy? No, it's not. Or should we talk further about it? Should we talk further about whether it is healthy or not to stuff yourself before sunrise, not to eat and drink for the entire day, and then stuff yourself again at sunset with a huge feast that your body cannot possibly process until you go to sleep, not even after going to the mosque and practicing prayer gymnastics for half an hour, and that for an entire month? I really wonder if that is healthy. Yes, although fasting is connected to abstaining from eating and drinking and different pleasures, many Muslims actually eat much more during Ramadan because when the fast is broken in the evening, the meals become immeasurably huge and just irresistible. Ramadan and fasting always reminds me of the sight of people feeling full and fat after the dinner in the evening. Is that healthy? Credible sources will tell you it is at least questionable and that you should be really careful with such a practice. Even Muslims that are corrupted by common sense and science will tell you to fast responsibly. But if you ask totally pro-Islamic sources, pro-Muslim sources, they will turn Ramadan fasting into another miracle. Everything about Islam is a miracle and tell you about the mind-blowing healthy benefits of Ramadan that does not only turn you into the most healthy and stable human on earth, it also makes your spirit pure and completely at peace. Surprising health benefits of Ramadan. If you attach the word surprising to a fact, it sounds more believable. That's very surprising, isn't it? What is very funny is that many people prefer to sleep during daytime in Ramadan. Resting during daytime makes the time pass much faster, and that makes Ramadan more bearable. That's very smart and surprisingly healthy, but also how is all this a sacrifice anyway? According to so many reports, people waste more food during Ramadan, eat more during Ramadan, gain more weight during Ramadan, which is normal if you stuff yourself in the evening, and commit more crimes during Ramadan. But some Muslim source will quickly fix that with surprising decrease in crime during Ramadan. The very few Islamic terrorist organizations, namely ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, Taliban, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Al-Shabaab, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and 100 others would happily object to such a finding, though, because they celebrate Ramadan with a very wild spirit of global jihad. What better time is there to care for Allah than the holy month of Ramadan? Gladly, the peaceful majority, the global Muslim community, also voices their strong opposition to such a monstrosity in this holy month. It must be here somewhere. I'm sure the news just couldn't catch such protests. They surprisingly happen, though. Many Muslims don't even know when Ramadan is until Ramadan is. Islam uses a lunar calendar that is, of course, very practical because a lunar calendar doesn't fit with the solar calendar, and therefore one specific month can have winter in 1 year, but summer 20 years later. Muslims don't know when Ramadan is until Ramadan is, because Muhammad said in a hadith, "When you see the crescent of the month of Ramadan, start fasting, and when you see the crescent of the month of Shawwal, stop fasting, and if the sky is overcast and you can't see it, then regard the crescent month of Ramadan as of 30 days. This year, Ramadan is expected to begin in the evening on Friday, February 28th, 2025, and end on Saturday, March 29th, 2025. The Islamic calendar follows a lunar cycle, and while these are the calculated expected dates of Ramadan, they can differ from place to place based on moon sightings or lack thereof. In 2026, Ramadan is expected to take place from the evening of Tuesday, the 17th of February, to Wednesday, the 18th of March, with exact dates to be confirmed. Ramadan in 2027 will start on Monday, the 8th of February, August 2nd, 2027, and will continue for 30 days until Tuesday, the 9th of March. So what Muhammad means is that you should look for the crescent, and when you see it, decide that this is the beginning of the month Ramadan, then look for another crescent, a new month, and end your Ramadan fasting because the month of Ramadan is now over. A new month has begun. Many Muslim nations and authorities take this too literally, of course, because Muhammad told people to watch for the crescent, because Muhammad lived in a time 1400 years ago in a savage desert where that is how people told the time. We can meanwhile tell the phase of the moon years in advance and don't need to look, but I don't have a cloth on my head, of course I don't know better. Trust these guys. Speaking of moon and sun, if you live somewhere where the sun doesn't set for a few months or doesn't rise, you would, of course, die of hunger or never be able to participate in the fasting. Therefore, because the Quran didn't know of such places and told people about the time of fasting in 7th century language from sunrise to sunset, and didn't explain what people north of the Arctic Circle should do, Muslim scholars later came up with different solutions that the Almighty Allah didn't know about. I always say it, listening to Allah is dangerous for you. But apart from that, isn't Ramadan a bit unfair? I mean, someone who fasts in Germany can't be equal to someone who fasts in Arabia. Fasting in Germany is much easier. Seriously, if you're fasting, go on a vacation to a nicer place to fast. But Allah knows better. Allah knows best. And also, if you fast in Russia, where there is currently daylight for 20 hours, so you have to fast 20 hours compared to Ushuaia in Argentina, where you fast for only 11 hours, you can blame Allah for such double standards as well. An almighty and all-knowing God would have probably given people a better measure to stick by, instead of the movements of the sun that are completely different around the world. But Allah was an Arabian God who didn't see very much beyond the peninsula. How would he know? But anyways, I don't want to bother the regular Muslim viewer too much. Hunger brings enough anger already, but please don't project your anger in form of an increase in crimes. Morocco is complaining or telling people who don't observe Ramadan to respect Ramadan, or else that doesn't help us explain that Islam is just misunderstood and actually so peaceful. So please be easy with the infidel. That is all I have to say. Enjoy your Ramadan. Oh, and stay away from Islam. If you enjoy my content, please support me by liking, subscribing, and sharing my videos. If you are compelled, please also use the like button us. Divine love to you all, and salam.